All right, so we're ready to combine these two into our final material. So I'm just using a water that I had made. I'm hoping this is the right one. It doesn't really matter. Any water will do. And like I mentioned before, for now, as far as my ice material goes, I haven't really made a material, so I'm going to be using this white. And we're now just going to use a series of blend nodes to chop this up and put things in the right spots. So this is all pretty straightforward. This is my this is my mask. So let's take care of some of the simpler stuff first. I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to make a couple of copies so I don't have to keep doing it, because all of these things, we're using this same mask, so that part remains the same. So let's take care of our base color first. The mask, the white areas are going to be corresponding to the iceberg, so that means that is the one that's going to be going on top. So as far as our color goes, we put our base color in there, and this gives us our base color. We can do the same thing with our normals. So again, the normal for the water is going to go underneath. The normal for the bergs is going to go on top. And we're going to use a mask. And because we don't want, where we have some translucency in the mask, we're going to end up fixing this one a little bit different, I think. We're going to have a little bit of this underlying water normal come through, but we want opaque areas to remain opaque so that part of it wiggles around with the water and the other part of it doesn't. And we're going to plug this into our normals. Next, let's make we have to also make an opacity output for our water, because I have opacity in my water even though I don't have it in here. And the other thing I want to add is an ambient occlusion. So I'm going to create two output nodes. Output node, I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to paste it. So one of these will make an ambient occlusion, and the other one we will make an opacity. And this one we'll call opacity. And not to forget to set its actual usage. Right. So I'm going to take this one. Oops. And let's take care of our opacity first. I've already got a uniform color here, so I'm just going to go ahead and reuse that. And then so this is the ice, and then I'm going to take the opacity from my water. Oh, I'm sorry, I need to make this grayscale. So I'm going to put a grayscale conversion in there. And then I can press the letter D to dock that. And I will plug this into my opacity channel. So that now gives us it gives us a translucency for the water, and we're beginning to see where our slush has sort of little areas where it's going to be opaque and little areas where it's going to be translucent. So that's working out well. Then we wanted to add an ambient occlusion, and again, this is going to be really easy because we're not really going to do it for the water. So I'm going to start typing in here. What did I do? Ambient There's a lot. I have to clean that out. All right, so what we want for this one, it's working off a height map. If you're not getting these names here, you come up here and display connector name. So I'm going to go ahead and put that into our height map here, and this will give us the ambient occlusion off of our height map. Now these are icebergs, so this is like really dark. It's going to look like mud. So I'm going to certainly bring down the radius because I really just want to sort of do the edges, and the less I make it do, the less trouble it gives me. So let's leave that back at 1. That's not what I want. We want point 1. That's good. Okay, maybe a little bit less on the radius. And we need another blend node with our mask. And so this is going to be for our ice areas. And then for the water, we're just going, we'll just do another. We could have made another white that was actually grayscale. I don't know who cares. So that is going to give us our ambient occlusion because we're using white for the water because we're really not putting it there. So that's most of our channels already taken care of right here. Now we're gonna for starters, we're not gonna have a metallic, so we might as well turn that to grayscale. I'm gonna just black that out, and I forgot to switch these guys. For our roughness, because I don't really have I mean, the roughness channel here is complete. Because I haven't really dealt with the material that I'm putting on here, it's just like a solid color. I'm going to do the same thing for the roughness. I'm going to get another solid color for that. And just leave that alone. Because like I said, this for me is a work in progress. I haven't completed this material myself. I've just completed the mechanics of it. Oops, forgot to put in that blend. So, whatever material you choose to blend with this, clearly the methodology is going to be the same. So, just like insert your material here. But for now, I'm just going to do this. And we're putting that into our mask. And, well, the water, I think, is probably going to give us a black too, but we might as well just plug that in there. And there we go. That's our roughness taken care of. Now, the only one here where we really want to get a little bit tricky is the height mask, because it's nice to be able to control the two different heights between. Let's see what we've made so far. Just make sure I'm looking at the right one. Okay. I think that's the right water. Yeah. So let's bring. I'm doing everything here because I'm not bringing in any external bitmaps like I normally do because I work with a lot of hand painted stuff. I'm actually relying entirely on my parenting size. Very often I let the size, you know, like I drive it from here with the 2K. I'm just gonna, this will never be a 2K map, especially not with my video card, but it doesn't need to be. I think it's perfectly good at 512 or 1024. So this is it at 1024, which for me doesn't really animate all that well, but it sure does look good. And then, you know, and so on here, they would actually be a snow, you know, like a snow or ice material. But I'm liking the sort of shape of it. So I'm going to bring this back down to 512 because that's what we're going to be looking at it. It still looks pretty good at 512. And so that's without the height maps. What we're going to want to do is to split up our height map in such a way as that we can separate the water height from the heights that we have going on in here. So in order to do that, we're going to give each one of them their own levels node. So again, the basic setup is the same, where we're getting our mask from here, and then it's going to be our height map that we're looking at. And then below, the background is going to be the height from the water. And in a minute, you'll see exactly why we need to do this, because this water has been set in terms of height from, you know, whatever the setting was when I first made it. So I think we're probably going to have to tile. No, those are the big waves. It's probably okay, but you've got this water that's coming up over the heights of these little bergs. I mean, it's kind of at this middle height already, and clearly that's not going to look right. So we need to be able to control each one of these two heights in relationship to each other, and the easiest way to do that is by giving each one, I highlight the noodle and I click each one its own levels node. And now we can look at this. You know, honestly, I'm pretty happy with these the way they are right now. So I'm going to concentrate on adjusting my water down. And I just start darkening my water until I'm happy with it, that it's actually below the level of my berg. So round about there. Now you're still getting an undulation in there. So you're getting a grayscale variant in through here. And don't forget, this is also going to have normals on it. But now you've got your bergs are definitely on top, and then I can bump that up a little bit more by just just tweaking this one up just a little bit further, just to make sure that I've got a nice clear difference between the two. And that sets up our height map. So we've now taken care of the basics. Let's take a look and see how this looks. And we've got one more thing which I'd like to add to it, which is a pan. Now, just because I had it set up as opposed to doing this in Unity, I'm doing it in the Substance Player, which is something I've only just started using it, so I'm kind of getting used to it myself. It's pretty straightforward. It's it's got the same kind of interface. So if you can use Substance Designer, it'll take you 5 minutes to figure this out. I only want archive files though, so I'm going to now open up. Oh, I don't think we saved it. It's not. We didn't publish it out. That's right. We haven't. So we have now our main flow. Let's get into our Explorer and publish this out. So main flow, and I'm putting it in my composites landscapes in my substance library. And now when we go back to our player, it ought to be there. There we go. So here we go, main flow, and that's what we just created. So if you don't have height maps set up in here, you find it in the same place that you're going to find it in the Substance Designer, which is Materials, Default, Edit, and this will give you your materials controls, and here is where you set your height scale. So we had it set to 0, so it's just as well that we took a look at it. So must mean our normals are looking pretty good. What I've noticed though is it's at a completely different setting than what you have in the Substance Designer. It's much more sensitive. But you go ahead and you know, you can adjust your heights in here. And everything else we're going to keep the same. And then if we want to play our material, we can play the animation down here, and that starts our timeline. So I think that's looking pretty nice, actually. Oh, we didn't expose our rotation for it's turning I mean, it's turning at like 0.0001 right now because it's set to nothing. But while we're in here, the one thing that I'm probably not entirely happy with are kind of these edges on the slush look a little bit hard to me. So I think I want to go back and deal with that and then expose our parameters correctly. But I'm pretty much liking what's going on in here, especially once we get it to start moving around a little bit. I think that's going to look pretty good. The one thing that I also want to do is I would like to get these to pan. And we're going to do that. That's really easy. We're going to do that with a transform 2D mode. But first, let's take a look at what's going on with our input parameters or lack thereof. So what? Let me see. You know, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to expose it from here. So I'm going to click expose. I'm going to call it Berg churn speed. I'm going to come back up in here. I'm going to get rid of this guy. And I don't really need to do a group, I think, for here. It's only going to be a couple things. But you know, you can always add a group name. This is now, because I clicked exposed, it's actually just taken the same parameter, taken the same numbers that I had assigned in here and put them in here. So let's republish that out and take a look at how that churn looks in the player. So all I have to do is click the refresh, and now my churn speed has turned up here. And as I move it up, yeah, that's starting to look more like icebergs because they're starting to kind of float around a little bit. On their own, they seem to have their own little thing going now. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So the only thing missing now is for them to actually be floating down the river. And again, that's going to be a pretty straightforward thing to do. So let's get back and do it. So we're going to do the same thing to each and every one of these. And we're going to want to have a pan X and a pan Y. So let's get our parameters squared away first. Let me bring this up so we can see it a little bit easier. So new pan X. I'm going to set this at 0 for now. But we want it to be able to go in both directions. I'm pretty sure I'm really overcompensating, but this way we don't have to go back to it. I am going to do kind of the same trick that we did with the churn. I'm going to slow it down. I'm not going to slow it down quite so much, but I do want to deal with relatively large numbers. I think that should be enough. But I do want to be able to go in both directions. So my minimum, I'm going to make -10 because that's going to reverse the direction. So it's going to be able to move at, the speed of 10 in either direction this way. And I'll leave that the step for now. We can change that later if we need to. And then we're just going to make another one of these for pan Y. Make a capital there. Yeah, okay. And again, we're going to set this to 0, -10, and 10. All right, so let's get back to our transform 2D node. And here we have offset. So if we take a look at our 2D view, we can see that, we could just start panning this along. And if we put a timer on it, that means it's going to pan in an animation. Before we get any further, because I always forget to do this and then get kind of pissed off that I have to come back and do it. In our, where are we? In our actual size here, I've noticed when I do a pan with this that unless I ever so slightly overlap the edges of my seams, it gives me a black line. So what I've ended up doing is, whether you're doing it like as a decimal or here it's going to want an actual percentage, so I'm putting in 102%. Other places I'll do like 100.2, but I'm adding a couple of percentage points in each direction. Sometimes I've had, depending on things, sometimes I've had to bump it up to like give it an extra point. But fool around with it. If you run into problems where you're getting like weird seam stuff happening, it's worth trying doing. I mean, it might be something else that's giving you weird seam stuff. I mean, that's could also be a possibility, but this is definitely one of the things that will do it. And this is kind of a quick hack that gets rid of that. And this way, if I do it in this, if I remember to do it in this first one, means I don't have to redo it later on. So we're going to go into this offset and create a dynamic function that's going to move that for us according to a timer. And this is a float 2. So we've created 2 float 1 inputs here. And we're going to have to take these 2 guys and we're going to have to turn them into a float 2 before we can use the result. Let's go back in here and come into our function. We're going to create an empty function. Right, so let's bring in our variables first. We're going to get our 2 float 1, so I'm going to copy, I'm going to paste. That's my 2 pans, and then I'm also going to need a time, so I'm going to get a 3rd one. So this one we'll set as time. This one we can set as pan X. And this one we can set as pan Y. So those are our inputs. Now, again, I'm going to put in an interim step here. I'm actually going to need a whole bunch of multiplication nodes. I'm going to copy this. Oops, didn't copy it. Copy it first. And then paste it. I'm going to need 2 for each, so 2 more. If I go like this and I go like this, this number has to be, it has to work visually. Now again, if we were dealing with water, this is where I'd leave it. But as I was testing it out, I just found that it was kind of easier to use the sliders at the other end if I just inherently slowed it down, because once you're having to do like a slider of like 0.01, like there's a big difference between 0.01 and 0.02, that starts to be kind of a drag just using the slider. But if we stick another multiplication node in here and then slow this down before we get it to multiply with our time, it allows people to make larger movements with their slider and still get very small incremental results. And what we're going to need here is a constant that we're going to pick. I settled on 0.01 in here. So whatever number they enter in here is going to get multiplied by 0.01 before it ever hits the multiplication with the time. And it's just a thing that I just think it makes it easier to use, but that's just me. The one thing we do need absolutely is we need a vector float 2, and this takes our two float 1 results and it's going to turn them into a single float 2 result. So we've built one half of this, and then we're going to just do the same thing with the other half. So I'm going to take my pan y, I'm going to multiply it by 0.01, and we're going to take this whole thing and we're going to multiply it by time, and that's going to be our other result. And that's it. So this is how we can now pan this guy. So we can make a copy, and then we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So each one of them gets exactly the same treatment, so that means they all move exactly the same and exactly the same time. And rather than do that manually, I just cut and paste. Okay, so the last thing we want to do is check those edges, but I just want to make sure that this is working according to how it's supposed to be working, because you never know. All right. So let's go ahead and export this out again. And take a look at it in player. All right, so my stuff's come in, so my pan should now be working. Something's not right. I don't think I look, clearly I didn't attach it to everything. Let's take a look at what's going on here. Oh, yeah, well, that works. Works much better when you attach all the little bits. Okay, let's try that again. And refresh it. And set it to going again. So I think that's too fast. See, I think they look better when they're moving like really slow. But whatever. Let's make it move a little bit faster so we make sure we don't get that seam. Yeah, so I'm not seeing a seam. So I literally, by adding that 2% or 3%, you're literally just overlapping like 1 or 2 pixels worth of edge. So it's essentially, I mean, you're not really going to get a seam that way, and it seems to put this weird like buffer in there, which just messes things up. So the one thing I want to do now is just kind of mess around with some levels in here, so I don't want quite as hard an edge in here. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with it. So I think to do that, I'm going to take a look at my maps here. So that's my height. Yeah, our issue is back in small flow. So let's take a look at what we're using for a mask. Yeah, this is where this is the mask that's addressing that. So what we need to do is get these edges here less hard, or less even, I guess, is probably. I think here. Let's come in here. This is the tricky one always, I found when I was doing this the first time too, because getting, you know, you're walking a fine line here, because we took that levels node and we're trying to get it as, we're trying to get it up to white, but also at the same time not lose any of that information, because as you're bringing up the white and getting rid of the grays, you're getting rid of some of the finer points, which is kind of where we're getting those straight edges. So this is the, no, other direction. This is the place where that's kind of, in fact, let's also look at this while we're doing it. Yeah, I'm already happier with that. That's much less harsh. But again, we're getting to kind of personal aesthetics. I think it's pretty complete. If you want to mess around with this is the area where you're going to be messing around with. And if it starts doing this and you want to see, because sometimes it's nice to be able to see your various nodes, and do a right click, compute node thumbnails, and that'll just recompute them again. So see how much more information we're starting to get here, how much more interesting that edge becomes, because before they were like really flat. So I think we solved that. Let's just one more export or main file, yeah. And again, I'm going to just, because I want to save all my files, I'm just going to do files, save all, and it'll go ahead and save any file that's in here that hasn't been saved. So let's refresh our view and get things. Yeah, that's the pain with this. It kind of doesn't hang on to your settings the way Unreal does, which is, I like the lighting. It's like you can bring it in here, it's already lit. I don't have to deal with that. And you can change your like I said, I got a bad video card. It doesn't really work very well at 1024, but you can change your parenting, your output size right here. It does look nice though. But it works better for me anyway. I have to get a new computer after I come back from Europe. Come on. Yeah, like I said, it's groaning. Right, anyway, I think it's time to leave it here. Yeah, I don't mind it at 512 though. So all we need to do now, and you can do this at home, is just add a material uh, to the mix here. And actually, I'll quickly go over how you do that. There's you'll figure it out on your own. It's actually pretty straightforward. If you haven't looked around in your library, there's a material blend node here. For two materials and more than two materials. And it works just like a regular blend node, only you're doing it with materials. So you can come in here, you can choose which channels you want to use. So you can turn channels on and off so you don't have too many nodes sticking out there. And then you just hook up your materials. And just like with a regular blend node, the one on the bottom is your background. And then you have a grayscale mask here. And you blend them just like you would with a blend node, except what you get is a direct, you get just a blend of two materials. So I think we'll leave it here. That is sort of the basic engine that can drive an ice flow for you, and you can mix and match your own materials to get those ice flows to look exactly like you want them.